Hey everyone, I'm Aaron Jones, the Worship Arts Director at our Clinton Township campus. And on behalf of all of us at Kensington, welcome. We're grateful you've chosen to join us this morning, whether in person or on live stream. How are you doing? That's always a fair question in the middle of a gray Michigan winter, even when there isn't isolation and a pandemic to grapple with. During my low times, I find that turning outward and meeting the needs of others can bring me surprising joy. God has made it that way, and there is something deeply satisfying in loving people. That's why I'm so excited to invite you to our upcoming Move Out gathering as we focus on God's heart for humanity. If you're not familiar with our Move Out gatherings, they're regular events held by Kensington with the goal of equipping and inspiring each one of us to be the church outside of these walls and to love our neighbors in all kinds of different ways. It's free, incredibly inspiring, and you'll leave feeling equipped to lead, serve, and love better. I always feel refreshed afterwards, like the fire is lit again to pursue my calling in serving others. This year, as we focus on God's heart for humanity, we'll see how beautiful it is that His love is without bounds. It beats for every human being. We hope that our hands and hearts will become shaped more like His, and that what follows will be our hands moved to action to reach out with love and meet people's needs in Jesus' name. God has used this event to speak to so many of us in past years, and I can't wait to see what He does in our hearts this year. Please join us. This two-day event is held on the evening of Friday, March 19th and Saturday morning, March 20th. There are two ways to be a part of this event. You can come in person at our Troy campus or join us through our live stream. Registration is required for in-person and online attendance, so don't wait. Register now at kensingtonchurch.org/moveoutgathering. Now we're in our third week of Personified, which has been a powerful series in this season. Looking at the person of Jesus and all the human emotions He experienced is preparing us in a special way for Good Friday and Easter.
Well, good morning, Kensington. How's it going? It's good. Let's all stand as we worship today. And actually, we're going to sing a new song this morning. It's called He Lives. And it talks about not only the fact that Jesus went to the cross and died for our sins, but that He rose, more importantly, so we could live with Him forever. So we're going to celebrate that this morning. Sound all right? Well, we sing, see the tomb where He lay. The stone rolled away. He is risen, He's alive. See His hands, see His feet, see His scars, and believe He is risen, He's alive. Oh, He's alive. Oh, He shackles breaking free, hear the song of the redeemed. He is moving, He's alive. Take this freedom, take this love, can you feel it rising up? He is here, He's alive. Oh, He lives. All
Morning, Orion. I know some of you guys are a little confused. Like, wait, and they're like, 2 more songs? We'll get there. We've got an incredible morning. First service was awesome. I expect this will be just as much. One of the things that I'm hoping, and I said this first service, I want to say it again, is what we just sang will be something that we will walk out of here and believe a little bit deeper. All honor, all power, all glory are His. There's just this thing we can do sometimes where we go to church and we go through motions. We go through the motions of what we sing. We go through the motions of what we talk about. And sometimes it's just the busyness and the craziness of the last week, or the chaos of a week coming up, or just the repetitive nature of going to church sometimes for some of us. Thank you, Susan. That we can find ourselves kind of in just a rut almost of sitting in here and just going through the motions and missing some of, whether it's the power in a song, whether it's a moment in scripture that we've heard 1,000 times, or whether it's just a tender moment sitting in your seat where I really believe God will try to whisper something to you, we can miss it. So my hope is that God does something right now in all of us to give us an ability, give us a capacity, give us the room to hear what it is that He has for us, that draws an attention to the truth that all power, all glory, all honor is His, whose name is Jesus, who is Lord of all creation, who is, who was, who is to come again, and who is nuts about every one of you. We're 3 weeks into a series that we started called Personified, and it is a chronological walk with Jesus up to the cross. We thought, what a better way to spend our time moving towards Easter, towards Good Friday, than to have a couple of weeks where we really just, in the moments that defined the days before His execution and trial and resurrection, that we sit in those moments with Jesus, seeing what in His deity and in His humanity were intended to inform our humanity about Him, about us, and to just soak those moments in. So that's where we're at right now. And I just want you to know, I'm so glad that you're with us today. Where's my camera people? All right, right here. So those of you in the room, thrilled that you're here. But I want to say something specifically to you that are online right now. I just hope you know that you matter to us every bit as much as anybody sitting in here. And while I'm so glad for all the seats that are filled right now, I just need you to know that whether you're staying away for a certain time, or whether you're so far away that you'll never be able to come and actually be in this place, that you are every bit as much a part of this community as anyone that walks in these doors. We love you, we value you. Would you just help me make sure our online community knows that? And know this, that we are working diligently, even as recent as this last week, with meetings to try to figure out how do we continue to get better at engaging with you, loving on you, making sure you feel seen and you feel known, giving you opportunities to grow, to know that you are not just out there, but you are a part of this and we are a part of you. So whether you're there or whether you're here, we're all together, and I'm just glad that you guys are here this morning. So when you read through the Bible, and some of you may know this, but some of us, this might be new information. There are 4 particular books that deal exclusively with Jesus, His life, His teachings, His miracles, all the moments that were Jesus. They are the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And throughout those Gospels, there are countless stories of these unbelievable, miraculous moments that can't be explained, moments sometimes that can't even be fully understood, but just these unbelievable moments. There's even many more that we're told that couldn't be contained in the pages of this book. But then there's these other moments that seem to be more normal and easily overlooked, and one of those is one of the moments we'll look at today. And if you have a church background, you're probably not unfamiliar with this moment. We refer to it as the Last Supper, and that's literally what it is. There's not a miracle that happens in this moment. It is a dinner. It's the last dinner that Jesus will have with His disciples, with His friends. And yet, what happens at this dinner? There's no blind man that gets healed. There's no dead that's raised. And yet, what happens at this dinner, I absolutely believe this. It is in these pages probably the clearest picture of the heart of God in all of the Bible. How He feels about us, and who He even is represented in what happens. Here's the challenge in what happens, and some of you know what it is, and we'll get to it in a minute, is that for some of us, it's become so familiar that we've lost the weight of it, that we've lost some of the intended depth and meaning in what Jesus does in this moment at this dinner. But here's part of the challenge as well, as we're going to read this in a minute, is that when you look at customs to Jerusalem 2,000 years ago versus habits and customs 2021 in Michigan, what he does that made sense then is frankly one of the weirdest things and most bizarre moments that Jesus ever had with his disciples. And so it could be easily just read over, kind of appreciated, but then passed on by for something so much less than what it was intended to be. So I want to kind of put us in the place before we go to the text. And the text is going to be John 13. So if you're going to follow along, if you like to have the actual pages open and do this with me, John 13, go ahead and get there, bookmark it. I'll be there in a few minutes. But what I want you to do is I want you to realize before we step into this dinner that this is only about 24 hours away from Jesus going to the cross. So the whole process of his arrest in the garden, his trial, his execution, that's 24 hours away, and he knows it. So think for yourself. I want you to put yourself in a moment that you've had, because we've all had them. Maybe you're in one now, where you've got something coming up in your life. It's exciting. You're looking forward to it. It's thrilling, right? And all that energy that starts to build as the day gets closer to whatever the thing is, whether it's a graduation, a job change, a move, birth of a child, a wedding. Right? So think about that moment for you. For me, I have one of those moments right now. My wife and I, Nicole, have 3 kids. Our oldest is Tobin. He is turning 18 next week, which is mind-blowing that I should not have an 18-year-old kid, but somehow I do. And he has been on a snowboard. I put him on his first snowboard when he was probably 6. And I remember the dream was 2 things. I couldn't wait till he was better than me, which he is now and constantly brags about it, but I taught him, so I have that right. And here's the second thing, was that for years we have talked about getting outside of Michigan, because he's never been outside of Michigan, getting to Colorado and actually getting him on a board on some of the big stuff. And so we just decided that a couple years ago we were going to do that for his 18th birthday / senior year type of trip, and that's coming up very quickly. So I'm in one of those moments, and I just know when you're in that moment, like your excitement starts going up, but not just your excitement, your tunnel vision starts to come in. Because as that moment, whatever it is, whatever something you're excited about starts to approach, like you're not thinking about everybody else, you're thinking about that thing, you're thinking about plans, you're thinking about preparations, you're thinking about the excitement. Like if you're pregnant and about to have a baby in 24 hours, you're not thinking about people you haven't connected with in a while and we need to get them on the calendar. Like you're thinking about you. And so I think it's safe to say that in a moment like this, again, excitement goes up, tunnel vision lays in, and you're thinking about you. Now imagine that whatever's 24 hours away isn't good. Imagine you're sitting right now 24 hours away from the most humiliating, horrifying, painful thing that you will ever experience in your life, and at the end of it, it's going to cost you your life. Absolutely nobody would guilt you for withdrawing, going inward a little bit, being a bit self-absorbed. Nobody would fault you for expecting the people around you to maybe give you your space, or even the opposite, to take care of you. Listen, this is exactly the moment that we're going to step into at this dinner party with Jesus. And yet he does something incredibly different than what might be more natural for so many, if not all of us. So before we get into the main text, I just want to pray. Here's what we believe. We believe this is a book inspired by God through the experiences in the hands of human beings. So if he's the author of it, it makes sense that we all, me, you, all of us, we need him to make sense of it more than I need to make sense of it. So let me ask him to do it. Father, God, we just pray, and I acknowledge right now that I believe those words we sang. All power, all honor, all glory are yours. How is it that the God of creation is present here right now with us in Lake Orion in a brick and mortar building? How is it that the God of creation, who deserves all honor, glory, power, and praise, is mindful not just of us, but our names? Every name online, every name in this room. You are incredible. And I ask that in your incredible nature, that you would lean into each of us the way that we need you to today, drawing us somehow closer to yourself. And I know on the journey of that, some of us are convinced you're there, and some of us aren't. And so all of us need something a little different from you today that only you can do and only you can provide. The least thing we need today is just me from this stage. So would you, I pray, Jesus, and only the way that you can, because you are God and all things are held in your hand, be present in this room, on this stage, online. Speak to us, grab our attention, lean our hearts into your scriptures with understanding, with knowledge, and with a desire to absorb your love and to be your love. In Christ's name I pray. Amen. You guys, just want to thank the band for a minute. I appreciate them so much, what you guys do and what you help create, the fact that you'll be back in a little bit. So before we go any further, just want to have a moment that, again, as part of what we do as a community, this is our giving moment. And if you're just joining us for the first time in a long time, which has been happening every week, it's been exciting to see online, in person. Just know this, if you're in person, then we don't pass anything. I know a lot of you know that, but some of you, this might be new to you. You're like, where's the bucket? Not these days, for obvious reasons. We don't want to pass things everybody touches. But these are moments that are so sacred for us that just is not about money. It is about mission. It is about everything that we're able to do locally and globally, and all the ways that we bring Jesus to people through our efforts, through our words, through planting churches. And these are the moments that we're able to partner up together and make that happen. So if you're a part of this community and you're like, I do that, I want to be a part of that, even if you're just doing it for the first time, here's how you do it. You can text in, you can do it on the website, you can do it, probably easiest is through our app. And for those of you who are like, hey, I like to do physical things, there's actually going to be places outside these doors when you leave. You can drop something in a bucket as well. So as always, though, not about money, totally about mission, and you guys make it happen on a weekly basis. So thank you very much for that. So here we go. Let's head to dinner. John 13. If you have your Bibles, go ahead and open them up. If not, we're going to put everything on screen, because I know sometimes it's just hard to figure out how to even navigate these pages if you're not familiar with it yet. So John 13, verse 1 begins this way. It was just before the Passover festival, and Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. And having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. Now, here's what's interesting. The Bible in its original language was two languages. New Testament was Greek, Old Testament was Hebrew. Both of those languages, not just obviously, are different than English, but part of what makes them different is the depth of the language. Those languages, particularly Hebrew, were more poetic. There are just certain words that don't transfer well into single words in English. I'll give you a great example. Like the word love, did you know in Greek there are 3 words for love? We have 1 word for love. So we use love for things like I love you and I love tacos. And it's just like a word like love should have different depth and meaning. That's why the Greeks had 3 different words for love. So there are different times in the Bible where I think it's important to lean into what the original word was because there's more depth in understanding it. This is one of them. So this word here at the conclusion of this sentence, he loved them to the end. It is the word telos. T-E-L-O-S is what it would translate into in English, or it looks like this in Greek. Telos. Everybody say telos. There you go. You're a Greek student. Test will be next week. Here's why this is important. You can translate this as the word end, as happens here. It's appropriate. But you can also carry with it other meaning, like completion, fulfillment, even the word perfection. And that's why there's some versions of the Bible that kind of add to this. They draw this word end out a little bit and would end this verse a little differently this way. He now showed them the full extent of his love. He had loved them to the end. Full extent of his love. Same thing. It's just a little bit deeper peer into the meaning of that word. And here's why that's so important, I think, is that before Jesus does anything and before Jesus says anything in this text, the writer of it, John, makes sure that we get this bit of a peek into the mind and the heart of Jesus, in one of the most important peeks into his mind and into his heart. Because what he says here is that before I do anything, here's what you need to know about what I'm about to do. I am about to love the people in my world, the disciples, my community that have been with me. I am going to love them to the absolute fullest extent of my love, which is something we cannot miss and overlook. He's literally saying at the top of my list of what it means for me to love you, this is supremely important. You cannot miss this. It is part of the apex. And here's one of those unique moments, I think, in church where whether you're on the spectrum of somebody that goes, I'm not even sure there is a God. Matter of fact, I don't even know why I'm here today. Or you're over here going, no, I'm totally convinced that there is a God and Jesus is him. Or you would define yourself somewhere in between. Here is one of those moments that I think, regardless of the spectrum we may be on, this is an important moment. It's an important understanding. Because if you're trying to understand the heart of God, like, is he really good? Does he really love? Or is he just angry? Is he the God that's judgmental and spiteful? He is about to tell you, if you want the fullest definition of my love, what it means that I am God and that I love you, I'm about to present some of that to you. Which I would think, if we're trying to figure out if there's a God and who is he and what makes him tick, you'd want to lean into. But likewise, if you're a follower of Jesus going, hey, I want to live my life for him, I want to walk in step with him, I want the dust of his feet on the face that I am, then I would think this, again, is a part of the scriptures where you want to go, okay, if this is part of him saying, hey, this is the fullest extent of how I'm going to love you, watch me, God of creation, then we should go, man, I want to do that. Whatever is about to happen, that needs to be who I am. So here's what it is. Verse 2. The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. And Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, he took off his outer clothing, and he wrapped the towel around his waist. And after that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. And Simon Peter, who said to him, Lord, are you going to wash my feet? And Jesus replied, you do not realize now what I'm doing, but later you will understand. And so Peter responded to him and said, no, never. You shall not wash my feet. And Jesus answered him, unless I wash you, you have no part with me. Then Lord, Simon Peter replied, not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well. And Jesus answered, those who have had a bath need only to wash their feet. Their whole body is clean, and you are clean, though not every one of you. For he knew who was going to betray him. And that's why he said, not everyone was clean. So you're probably beginning to learn, if you're a regular around here, that one of the things I like to do most of the time is have some kind of a visual that would represent our passage, that would represent the text, that would draw us back to it. I'm a visual learner. I try to present something, so I thought during the week, maybe I should do what Jesus did, strip down to his skivvies. I'll do that, and I'll make a point. And I thought, nope, I actually want you to come back next week, so you're going to have to picture it on your own head. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to picture it. I want you to picture this moment where Jesus gets up from the table. And it says he disrobed to his undergarments. Like he's in his boxers. And he's wrapping the towel around his waist. And he gets on his knees to serve. And however you picture that happening in your head, you have to understand this. This was an absolutely bizarre moment to the disciples. But it was not bizarre for the same reason that it would be bizarre for us. This is not a custom we're privileged to. This is not a custom that we have, obviously, in our world. It was a custom 2,000 years ago to the Romans, to the Greeks, to the Jews. I mean, it was a custom. And so it was abnormal for us for different reasons than it would have been for them. I just want to make that very clear because we need to lean in for a minute to why it was so abnormal for them. But we had a couple of our staff members, some from Troy and some from Clinton Township campus, that tried to put together a picture this last week of why this would be so weird for us if somebody tried to offer to wash your feet to serve you. So check this out.
Oh, why? Why today? Come on. Come on.
Need some help, partner? Yeah, I honestly have no idea what's going on with this. It made a clinking noise and then the dashboard lit up and now I'm stuck here.
Well, I'm not an engine expert, but I think I can help. Let me just go get my stuff.
What are you doing?
I'm just gonna wash your feet.
Why would you wash my feet?
I know it's
Stop
old fashioned, but I love to serve.
Get out
Fine!
of here! Get out of here!
Fine!
Why are you
Good
doing
luck
this?
with your car!
It's like 2 degrees out. Why would you wash my feet?
God loves you!
What? Are you serious right now? Oh my gosh. What is wrong with people?
Yep, that's weird. Like the first sign of something is about to get weird is when he pulled up and referred to him as partner. You need help, partner? No, mosey on, cowboy. No, thank you. Go on. Here's the thing, though. Again, this was a weird moment for the disciples for completely different reasons than it would be weird for you and I. This group of men that followed Jesus had gone through that whole range that I mentioned a minute ago, from we're not sure who you are to ready to die for you. They're not quite at the ready to die for you place yet. But they've gone to the place that they believe him to be who he says, which is God. As a matter of fact, there was even one moment Jesus lays down this incredible sermon in John chapter 6, and it says that tons of people left. Like Jesus split his church because they didn't like what he preached on, and everybody walked away. And so he turns to his disciples, and he's like, you guys going too? And they're like, no. Matter of fact, this was when Peter, in the clearest moment, saying who he thought Jesus to be, said, we believe you to be the Son of God. And so they've gone through this moment where they believe very much that this is more than a man, more than a rabbi, that Jesus is the Lord of creation, which means that there are very clear accounts in the Old Testament that they, as Jews, would have been familiar of that describe the magnitude of who this man was that was in their midst. I want to take you back to a couple of them. For example, in the book of Exodus, chapter 3, this is the moment in the history of the nation of the Hebrews, the Israelites, where they were in captivity to the Egyptian nation. They'd been there for hundreds of years. God comes to make good on his promise to lead them into be a people of their own, a nation of their own. You know the story probably. Moses, burning bush isn't consumed. God speaks to him in it. He says, you're the man, I'm going to send you to bring my people out. So this is a big moment. And Moses has this interaction with God where he says, well, who do I tell these people that sent me? And this is what happens, verse 13. Moses said to God, suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask, what is his name? What shall I tell them? Verse 14, God said to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites, I am has sent me to you. Now, again, a little bit of a language study. So the phrasing I am is actually a Hebrew verb. And it's a really important one because it's key in understanding the name Yahweh, which is the name God. You want to understand the importance of, the nature of, the meaning of God, Yahweh, then this phrase, I am, is an important Hebrew verb in understanding that. It literally translates as, I am that I exist. So that's what God says. You want a name for me? Here's my name. You can't give me one that makes sense, so it's just going to be one that's over everything. I am that I exist. That's my name. And so the phrase I am, especially in reference to God or used by Jesus in moments like this that we're going to read about here, when you see the phrase I am, it became known as a reference to the immortal, everlasting, always present, over everything, in everything, through everything, never ceasing nature of God himself. Not a God, the God. Like, this is a big phrase, I am. And the disciples, they knew that this is who he claimed to be, the great I am. This is not just a man in their midst. This is the I am is in their midst. All the way back to Exodus, he now stands there with them in this room. The I am, who wasn't just present at creation, who wasn't just the author of creation, but even more so, again, and the disciples would have been aware of this in the Old Testament, according to the book of Isaiah, he is the great I am who holds all of creation. This is the magnitude of who's in the room with them. Isaiah chapter 40 says it this way, who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, or with the breadth of his hand marked off the heavens? Who has held the dust of the earth in a basket or weighed the mountains on the scales and the hills in a balance? I'm going to give you a couple of pictures just to put some visual to this. This is what God's saying. I've marked off the heavens with my hand. He says the breadth of my hand. That's not even finger to finger. That's just palm. This is the spiral galaxy. Traveling 186,000 miles per second would take 45 million years to get here. He says that's in my hand. This is the I am. This is who's in the room with the disciples and just shared a meal with them. The man who holds this in his hand. There's another one, the butterfly galaxy, nebula, traveling 186,000 miles. Would take 2,100 years to get here. Again, I don't know where that one's at. Maybe that one's over here. I don't know, but it's there. This is the I am who holds all things in his hand. We cannot miss this. And the disciples would have been aware of this. They would have been aware of these references that he was the great I am. They would have been aware of these references in Isaiah that say the I am holds all things. He is so glorious and so massive and so powerful. He didn't just make it, he holds it, and he's in the room with them. But here's where it goes even further in the understanding of what it was that he did and why it was so bizarre to them. You have to understand the cultural practice that day of washing feet and the fact that in doing so, Jesus takes this humbling and frankly humiliating posture before his disciples, the one who holds galaxies, takes this posture before them to serve. So remember, in this era, all travel is dirty. It kicks up dust. Doesn't matter if you're on horseback or on feet or on chariot, it all kicks up dust. Probably, arguably, the dirtiest is when you're on your feet. You got open-toed shoes, you've got sandals. As you're walking, it's hot climate, it's humid climate, it's dirty climate, so you're gonna get filthy feet. And for the same reasons that when someone comes to your house, most of us expect people to take their shoes off, or most of us just do it automatically because we don't want to walk our dirt through someone's house where maybe their babies are crawling or they're sitting or they're walking. It's just customary, right? These are dirty. Where I've walked, it brings it in, so I leave them at the door. For similar reasons, when you showed up to someone's house, you got your feet washed. But it wasn't the homeowner that washed the feet. It would be a servant who washed your feet. And we have all kinds of practices today that even though that might be a weird one for us, like nobody's probably showed up at your house anytime recent and you've offered to wash their feet, but we do have things that we do that if we didn't would be bizarre. Like if somebody comes over to your house, usually we do two things pretty quickly. Can I take your coat? Can I offer you something to drink? Right? Now imagine going to somebody's house and you take your coat off and you're just kind of holding it the whole time and nobody offers to take it. And then nobody ever offers you anything to drink, so you go find the cabinet with the cups and go to the sink on your own. Like you're probably getting in the car on the way home, and whoever came with you, the conversation's gonna go, ain't going back there again, right? Not having them over, that was weird. They never took my coat. They never gave me something to drink, right? So there are practices that are just normal to us that if we didn't do them, it would be abnormal. This is one of those practices. It's just normal. It's customary to happen, but by a servant. Not by the one who holds the universe in his hands. And so you have this moment where at this table, Jesus is dining and eating with his disciples. And again, you've got to picture this. They're eating and he gets up and he withdraws for a minute. And he starts to disrobe. Like this is one of those moments where if you're at the table, you're kind of looking at each other, you're making eyes, your fork stops halfway up and you're like, what is he doing? I don't know. How much wine did he drink? I don't know. Like, what is happening right now? Like, you're just not sure what's going on. It's a totally confused moment. This is a bizarre moment. And so you have this moment. They've enjoyed this meal together because nobody's feet have been washed yet. You get the picture. The disciples just piled in, dirty feet, went to the table, stuffed their face. And then after the meal, in this completely paradigm-shifting moment, Jesus gets up from the table. And the hands so powerful as to hold spinning galaxies take hold of their dirty, smelly, stinking feet. And he washes them. He grabs a basin, maybe a sponge or a towel, whatever he had, pours water, and the God of creation, who spoke planets into existence, who holds galaxies in the breath of his hand, who maps out the dimensions of the universe under his hand, kneels down and takes hold of dirty, filthy feet and cleans them. It's part of the reason that Peter has the response that he does to Jesus. His initial response was, whoa, 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 whoa. Are you about to wash my feet? And Jesus says, I know you don't understand what I'm going to do, but you'll understand it later. And Peter says, nope, I'm not going to understand it anytime. You are not washing my feet. Why does he say that? Because you are the great I am. You are the I am who led us out of captivity. You are the I am who holds spiraling galaxies. You're not washing my feet. But that's why Jesus then has the reaction to Peter that he did. And he says, Pete, if you want to get me, Peter, like if you really want to get me, then it's critical that you get this. Get what, Jesus? You get that the dress code of my followers is humility, and you must be layered in it. And so watch what I do for you. And then he goes on to make sure that the disciples wouldn't miss that this was just simply a moment that was to be between him and them and done right there. And even more so to make sure that you and I, who would read this centuries later, wouldn't just think it was a moment for them and not for us. So here's how the text finishes with the dinner. Verse 12. When he had finished washing their feet, he put his clothes back on and returned to his place. Do you understand what I have done for you? You call me teacher and Lord, and rightfully so, for that is what I am. And now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's. I've set an example for you that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, and no messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. There's a couple of ways to treat a passage like this. And I wonder if some of us have treated it a little wrong, even after years of maybe knowing it. The one way to treat it, I will tell you this, I have. I've treated it a little wrong and have neglected the depth that it intends. One way to treat the passage is just to recognize it for being a beautiful moment of Jesus' humanity and frankly, his humility. Go, Jesus is amazing. And he is. But his humanity should inform our humanity. Meaning that the appropriate way to treat a passage like this is not just to go, it was a beautiful moment of Jesus' humanity and humility, but in Jesus' humanity and humility that loves you and I this way, it is intended to motivate us to love others the same way. And so I think there's a couple of things that as I've just sat in this text and really wrestled, like, all right, God, how do we do that? What would you have us to hear? There's two things I want to give you this morning that I think are ways to start to say, how does his humanity inform our humanity when it comes to this moment where he washes feet, and we don't wash feet today, so what do? So we're going to put it on screen. I'd encourage you to write it down, take a picture, do whatever you do to make sure to keep this in memory. But number one is this, is that we must be men and women who are committed to strive for posture, not position. Remember, this is Jesus, the great I am. He is the boss, the king of all things, the Lord of creation, the I am of all creation. He is in the room taking the posture of a servant, not leaning into the position of the God over all things. He could have leaned into God over all things. Hey, I'm God, I'm over all things. You wash my feet. Instead, he neglected position. He forsaked position. He gave up position, and he leaned into posture, the posture of a humble servant. When I was early on in ministry, when I first got hired in at a church, my first job was to be a youth pastor. I worked with high school and junior high students, primarily with high school, and one of the things that we would do every year is we had this trip that we would take probably about 50, 60 high schoolers on to Wheaton College in Illinois. It was a week-long kind of student ministry conference. It was all about trying to get deeper in this, understand it. What does it mean for a life? Is it just a text that should sit on a shelf and get pulled out on Sunday? Or is it what it says, alive and living? Does it really teach us, correct us, lead us, guide us? Do we encounter Jesus here? And so the whole idea of the conference was really, how do we be more than just people that know of God, know about God, but actually experience him, know him? So you've got thousands of kids that would show up to this thing, and hundreds of churches. And so one of the things that they would do is the youth pastors that were there, so the men and women that were leading these groups, were given the privilege of like a 30-minute slot ahead of everybody else when it was food time. So 3 meals a day they'd feed us, and we got to be the ones that would get all the way in front. I think we had the 8 o'clock at breakfast, so on and so forth. And then everybody else had to follow us if you were a student. And it was even to the point that if you missed your time slot, like you could just walk by everybody in line, hundreds. You just walk by them, you're like, see ya, and just jump in the front and go get your food. So there's this one day, I'm doing that. I'd been doing it all week. So I'm walking by, and I see all my kids. They're all together. There's a big group of them. I mean, a couple dozen. And I'm like making fun of them. I'm like, stinks to be you. I'm about to eat. And I kid you, it's like a movie. So I'm walking, and I turn forward, and I run smack into the chest of some dude that's like 6'5". Just like staring down at me. He's like, hello, little man. He didn't talk like that. And I'm like, oh. And he goes, get back in line. I'm like, you get back in line. I didn't say that. He would have snapped me like a twig. He probably ate sandwiches bigger than me. I'm like, I go, I'm a youth pastor. He goes, no, you're not. It's like, pretty sure I am. He goes, no, you're not. Get in line, knock it off. So this argument like starts happening between he and I. All my students even try to step in and help me. They're like, no, he's our youth pastor. The guy's like, no, he's not. Stop. Then all these other people, like other adults, other kids, I don't even know who they are staring. It's getting super awkward. I'm starting to sweat, and I'm getting really angry with this guy, but he's way too big for me to get too angry. So I'm like, dude. So we start arguing, and I'm trying to like stay in my position. Like, I am a youth pastor. Let me in. And so finally he goes, if you really are, then show me your license. I'm like, I'm not showing you my license. So it's like, it gets to the point that finally I grab my wallet, pull it out, I show my license. He looks at it, he looks at me, he looks at it, looks at me, and then he hands it back and he goes, it's not my fault you look so young. I'm like, wow. Now, to his benefit, I was in my early 20s. I had not yet developed my man head, so I did look a little younger than I am. But here's what ended up happening. I jumped back in line with my students because I'm like, well, this is totally embarrassing now. I'm just going to hide in the group of these kids that came to my defense, and we all went and ate together, and then I did that every day after. And here's what I learned kind of doing that with them, because a few of them shared this with me, is that none of them cared or were angry that I had the opportunity to go ahead of them. But every one of them loved that I didn't, and that I chose instead to be with them. In the book of Luke, the same moment is happening at this Last Supper. The book of Luke is, again, one of the Gospels. Luke tells the story with a detail that, again, gives more depth. It doesn't make a contradiction, but it gives depth to the story. I want you to see how Luke describes a moment, again, of, I think, what Jesus is trying to communicate to his disciples about the significance of his presence with them and what he just did for them. For who is greater, the one who is at the table or the one who serves? This is Jesus speaking. Is it not the one who is at the table? But, you see it, I am among you as one who serves. He's not saying I am among you like you and I say it, right? Because I can say I am among you right now. That's different. This is the I am from Exodus, the I am, the great I am, the never ending, always over, always under, holds all things. This is literally what he's saying. Gentlemen, you must understand, I am is among you right now, not as one to be served, position, as one who serves, posture. So here's the question for us, I think, out of that. What do you think it's like for people when we're among them? Like, what do you think it's like to be in a room with you, with me? For all of us, it's going to be different because our personalities are different. So think about it for yourself. What's it like to be in a room with you? What would people say of you it's like to be with you? It's like when you are among them. Would they say you are one who is angry? You are one who is judgmental? You are one who dominates. You are one who is the life of the party. You are one who is cynical. You are one who micromanages. You are one who makes everything about you. Like, what would be said? Or would it be said that among them, you are like one who serves? Because there's a lot of things that could be said about us. Some good, some not so good. If we're serious about following Jesus, the thing that must be said about us in any room, in any relationship, in any dynamic is they are one who serves. Whether it's home or church or work or your neighborhood or a line that's not moving fast enough, is our posture as one who serves? Or do we lean towards position instead? Do we lean towards something else? And some of us might go, man, I don't know what it's like to be around me. I would actually challenge you to find a few people that you trust and ask them this week, hey, what's it like to be around me? Like unfiltered, honest, real, what's it like to be around me? What dynamic do I bring to a room? And see what's said about you. And here's what I would hope will be said about me. But I'll be honest with you, I don't know if it would be one of the top 3, 5, or 10 things. And that kind of bothers me. I don't know that if I asked enough people that among the top 10 things, they would say, oh, dude, you're definitely one that serves, puts everybody in front of you, looks out for other people, makes it about them, not you. I think there's a lot of things that would be said about me. Some that I'd be embarrassed by, some that I wouldn't want to hear, some that I'd be proud of. That one is a necessity. What would be said about you as one who is among them? Over the years, as I've been in church, one of the things that's happened from time to time is something that happened actually just a couple years ago, maybe not as clear and stark as this, but similar. I had a couple come up to me on a Sunday morning, first time they'd ever showed up, and gave me kind of their portfolio, all the places that they'd led and you know, their neighborhood stuff and other churches and all these things, and basically said at the end of it, you know, we are leaders, we're good leaders, God led us here to lead. And this is what they said. They look at me, they go, put us in charge. I was like, what? Like, I don't even know your name yet, put you in charge. So this is what I literally said to him. I'm like, well, we've got this cleaning team we just developed, and we'd love to get you on it. And they kind of looked at me weird. So I've developed a habit over time that when somebody comes and says, I'm a leader, let me lead, like right away, that's what they want. Like, hey, I'm here to lead. I'm like, go clean toilets. And if they say no way, I say go away. And you're like, wow, that's a little bit harsh. And I would just say, not when you understand that at the epicenter of what we believe as followers of Jesus is the God of creation who holds galaxies, who came to this earth and did not take a throne, he took a knee. He took two of them. And he took the most humbling, humiliating posture, regardless of his position, and he served. What would be said of us among the people we go to, we run with, in physical form, online? Do we represent the God who loves us, who has washed us as those who love and wash humbly as well? Here's the second thing I would say. It's the only other application for the morning I'll give you. You and I think if we're going to really do this, have to be willing to also get some dirt on our hands. There's a way that we have learned to read and interpret Jesus sometimes that makes him a lot easier to follow than I think he really is. And this is one of those places where I think that's most obvious at times. Because sometimes it's super easy for us to look for ways to serve other people, to love Jesus, to represent him by doing the easiest things to serve and love. Things that don't cost us, things that don't put us outside of our comfort zone, things that don't require us to get uncomfortable, things that don't require us to love people who are difficult to love. So again, years ago when I was a youth pastor, we had this kid this one year on a ski trip that we went on. He was a senior, been skiing his whole life, decided for his last trip, his last hurrah with us before he graduated on the ski trip, he was gonna learn to snowboard, and he was horrible at it. Like every other minute, he's just down, down, down. And the worst I actually saw, I was on the lift, he was below, I saw him bite it, roll around a couple times, and then slam into a wooden post. And so this is like pre-me having kids. And some of you will know this too, because you've been here, maybe you're here now, like when you don't have kids, you just think different at those moments. I was like, ah! Instead of how I would be now, like, ah! And so I didn't even think anything. I'm just like, yeah. So he quit for the rest of the day. We get on the bus, big charter bus. We're headed back, packed, I think 60 people on this bus. And Marty, he's looking at me really weird, pale, not looking well. I'm like, huh. So I lean into him. I was like, hey, Marty, how many fingers am I holding up? And I'm doing this. And he turns his head sideways, and he leans, and he projectile vomited in a way I have never seen happen before. I didn't even think it was possible to do this. I mean, it went, blah. I barely dodged it, caught a little remnant. Remember, this is a charter bus. It's narrow aisles. There's not big room. And the floor, if you can picture it, it's like those grooved floors so that all the water and debris runs down. It's not just sloshing up and down. He's leaned over. He's still going. I have a horrible, horrible gag reflex. I did not take care of my kids when they were sick growing up. Sorry, Mom did all of that for you guys. I ran away. I was like, so I'm in the other room. So this is me on the bus. I'm like, I can't handle this. So I decide I got to do something because everybody's looking at poor Marty. Nobody's doing anything. And I'm the youth pastor, so I should probably do something. So I know we have a bunch of water bottles in the back of the bus. So I get up to go get him water while he's still heaving onto the floor. Sears Taylor, who has become a dear friend of mine to this present day, was also a senior on this trip. And Sears goes and grabs a little plastic garbage can that the bus driver's got, and then he starts asking, does anybody have anything? And I kid you not, the only thing that could be produced on that entire bus was one single napkin. And next thing I know, while I'm getting water, here's Sears wiping up the floor, wiping Marty, wiping it off of his mouth and his face and off of his shirt. And it got to, how many rubs on the floor do you think till that napkin was gone? I think it was like 3. And so then he's just scooping. Yeah, I know, right? And then he's cleaning it off Marty. And here I am. I got you water. And that was the heart of Sears, and I've watched it be the heart of him to this very day. And I just think, there have been too many times in my life where that's what I do. In response to what Jesus has done for me, I try to serve others by just getting water instead of grabbing the napkin. Instead of being willing to get my hands filthy, to get undignified, to get a little dirty like my Jesus did. And you might go, I don't know who to do that to. Who do I do that for? And sometimes I think the answer is closer than we realize, or maybe than we want to admit. Remember, this group that Jesus serves, this isn't a bunch of random strangers. It's not a crowd out somewhere. These are his closest friends and companions. But they're not the easiest group to serve, especially in this moment. Just because they're close doesn't make it easy. Remember, among them is Judas. Judas has already gone and betrayed Jesus. He's going to sell him off. You've got in this room Peter, who will deny him at the cross. You've got the other disciples that will run away when he's arrested. You've got John, who will watch him die from a distance. I mean, even just think Judas. Like, Jesus washed Judas' feet, and he knew. The text says he knew the one who had betrayed him. He got down on his knees and washed the filth and the gunk out of the toes of the man that just sold him out for death. Posture over position. And it makes me wonder if the people that God would have us to serve in such a way, for some of us right now, are way closer than we think. See, sometimes it's easy to go do the mission trip thing and serve somebody over there instead of your own neighborhood, or to love a stranger instead of a difficult family member, to love somebody that you don't know rather than somebody who has offended and hurt you. And I just wonder if for some of us, the who that God says, on your knees, get a little dirty, love them as I have loved you to the fullest extent, is somebody that actually would feel more like grabbing the napkin than the water bottle. There's a story of a woman here, Donna McCulley. It's an unbelievable story of what God has done in her to transform her, to change her, to lead her, to live this kind of lifestyle for people that I think so often we may feel sad for, but we are not motivated to love in the same way God has moved her and she's been responsive to. I also want to warn you a little bit. I don't know if you saw the signs walking in. This is a little bit of a PG-13 kind of video. So we don't do this labeling often, but I do want you to know, whether you're watching online, you need to send your kids to go fill your coffee up for a minute if you want, or if you're here and you want to maybe wander the hall. It is not inappropriate, but it is intense as she talks about going down to Detroit and serving women on the streets and what that has entailed for her. So this is Donna McCulley and her story.
You are about to witness the very exciting story of a city and its people. That city is Detroit.
First time I went down there, I was scared.
Home of nearly 2 million people, which has brought Detroit to its finest hour.
I always gone into the city for plays, restaurants.
There is a renaissance, a rebirth in the city, the today of which we are a part.
But you never ventured into the areas around that.
There's a newness in Detroit.
Most of the houses are burned out.
Yes, Detroit is enjoying its finest hour.
It actually looks like a war zone.
It is a story of a city seeking new horizons in a resolute contest with great challenges.
The women in Detroit, there's someone who is lost, shunned by society, shunned by their family. The majority are probably in their mid-20s from the suburbs of Detroit. Very good looking, depending on how many years they've been out there. They'll get hooked on heroin, crack, whatever, and this is how they can get their drugs. They're not strippers in a nice club. They're not call girls. They're women selling themselves on the street. The lowest of the low. They sell themselves for a pack of cigarettes. I wanted to help these women because I could somewhat understand where they came from. When I was starting on the journey that God had sent me on, I really felt him telling me to start my own ministry, and my mission was to reach out to women working the streets, selling themselves for money. I said, I can't do that. I'm not a leader. I wouldn't know the first thing of what to do. And in spite of my fighting this, he started opening doors. In 2001, I borrowed a van. I had a friend who was willing to go out with me, packed up the van with sandwiches, juice boxes, hygiene kits, and hit the streets. We prayed the whole time saying, we're We're not sure where we're headed, not sure what's going to happen, but we're trusting the Lord that this is where He called me to go. Now, we go up and down here a couple of times. The women are out here working, so there's going to be, right now.
There's one on the corner right there.
Yeah. A lot of the girls live down here in these abandoned homes that have no electricity, no heat, no water. It's where they can live.
Oh, I was terrified my first night out because I was born and raised in the suburbs, and I was always afraid of Detroit. I was a person who took 275 around Detroit, so I didn't have to drive through it even.
Yeah, it was scary. Especially when you see and hear gunshots, see someone get murdered, find someone dead in a doorway, have someone put a knife to your neck and tell you they're going to slit your throat. It's like, yeah, it can be scary. Okay, the next one we're going to is another crack house.
Who's this up here?
I know, we'll find out, won't we? Camera down. You can almost spot when someone is like new to the streets. She usually still has a pretty complexion, all her teeth. She walks around really naive to the circumstances she's in, not truly understanding the danger. If they're out there the next week, then the next week, and pretty soon it gets to be a month, a year, you see her deteriorate. You also see her start to withdraw even more, to pull in on herself. And that's really hard to see. Them, it's almost like watching them just fade away.
Oh, good. I was hoping it was you guys.
Hi, Precious.
Oh, I'm so glad it's you.
Okay.
I'm glad. Thank you.
Is everything okay?
Yeah.
It's very hard. I got jumped yesterday and robbed.
I'm
Thank you so
sorry.
much. I always look for you guys.
You know-
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
God bless
You're
you.
welcome. As your relationship develops with the women on the street, they become more focused on the prayer. You can approach them. They're happy to see you. Oh, I need my prayer. I need my prayer.
Hey, girl. How are you? How's it going? Fine. I love this. I got a friend back here too, so careful, we got a camera.
It's okay. You gonna pray for me?
Yes, you know it. Oh, Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for allowing us to see Tanya tonight, Lord.
Hi there. We're with Abide Ministries. Would you like a free lunch bag and a hygiene kit?
Sure.
Okay, may I pray with you, please?
Just the simple words of saying, can I pray for you? And have them break down and say, today was one of the worst days of my life. And I was praying that God would show himself. And you came along. You know it's not you. Just because I got in the van and drove down there, I didn't change anybody's life. But I got to be used to be an answer to someone's prayer. We're very grateful, very, very grateful for who she is, her openness, her love, her friendship. And we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I get tears in my eyes. It's like I even put makeup on today.
I know, you look good. I like that.
Just a little bit.
That reminds me, I got a donation of some makeup. You need some?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have it.
I got some
Somebody-
foundation
Hey,
and
you know,
lipstick and.
Over at Wendell's, they had still a bunch of my stuff. My shampoos, my conditioners, all my stuff was stolen.
Okay.
So, like, I'm crying.
Michelle, what do you think of these ladies here?
Oh, I love these ladies.
What?
Just Donna, well, here I go. Donna's been there from the beginning, She's been there from the beginning, from the day one, from when I started walking the streets, and she's still there. She hasn't left me.
Can't leave you. We love you, silly.
Everywhere I go, I don't care if I'm out of the area, they still come. She still comes to me. I don't want to cry.
When you ask if you can pray for her, and almost immediately she starts to cry. It's like such a privilege to be a part of that moment, because the life she's living, she doesn't have the right to cry. She would probably be beaten, ostracized. You don't let your defenses down. And the fact that she feels comfortable enough to cry with us, that says a lot about what God is doing in her life and giving her safe refuge. There are many nights, especially that I'm getting older, when I just want to stay home. I just want to kick back, put my feet up, not bust my back trying to load the van, and just do nothing. Sit home, read a good book, and not cry for the people I know I'm going to see. Why would you sit home and even deny yourself the chance to do life with somebody? Because you're afraid for your life. We're all going to die. And we have no idea how that's going to happen. I've had cancer twice. I've been through a lot of things that I probably shouldn't be here. And I'm going to sit at home and do what? Watch TV? Watch life played out on a screen when I can live life with people? No.
I think the thing that she said that both services resonated with me the most is when at the end she just said, why would you deny yourself? Why would you deny yourself to play a part in someone else's story and to serve? And I don't know what's more shocking in some regard, the fact that there are women who have believed that they are not valuable, who are so unseen and unloved, that that's the choices that they've made in their lives, or the fact that the Church of Jesus Christ is not known by and large for being more like Donna McCulley. I don't know if it's weirder to me, the climate in which she serves, or the fact that she's not more representative of so many more of us who call ourselves followers of Jesus. Listen, I said there's a way to create a Jesus that is not the Jesus of the Bible. It's an easier Jesus to follow. But the real Jesus, the Jesus of the Bible, I'll be frank with you, you know this, he's actually really hard to follow. But it's really worth it. Jesus said it in John. Again, he ended the whole passage this way. Can we put this verse back up? John 17, of the chapter we're in, 13, 17. He said, now that you know this, you will be blessed if you do this. The real Jesus is not easy to follow, but he is worth it. Whether following him leads you to the streets of Detroit, serving the most marginalized in our world, or if it leads you to the front doors of Kensington, to serve every single week like Joe does, making sure every single one of you walk in and out of these doors and know that you're acknowledged, seen, loved, and valued. If you don't know Joe by name, you know him by face, I would assume, because you're out there every week, rain, sun, or shine, making sure to serve all of us. And I just asked Joe, as a part of our community here, to share a little bit of his story and what drives him and motivates him to serve us every week.
I mean, it's pretty simple. About 7 years ago, I was kind of in one of them valleys of life, sitting over in Troy, and I was like, something was missing, and then it came up on the board that Shelby Kensington was going to open the next week, and I'm like, I want to be day one, ground floor, new church. After a little while sitting there, I'm like, something's still missing. God, how do I get to know people in this church? And all I heard was, you want to get to know the people in this building? Go stand on that door as they walk into that building. I went downstairs, I talked to Aunt Jeanette, went through your FBI vetting process, and next thing you know, I'm on the door, and here we are.
That had to be
7 years
funny
later.
too. Like, really, to stand at the door?
Right? I was like, really? I just want to hold the door. But to see everybody, you know, I think I make it a point. I think I've said hi and good morning to each and every person in this room, and I think that's very important to do, to make people feel welcome. You guys are my extended family. You know, you're the newest member. Couldn't be more happier. Right? Go ahead. There you go. But that's what just keeps me going every day. You know, obedience. You know, getting on my knees. And it just was answered, asked and answered. And there I am on the door. I love it.
I love it, dude. There's a verse in Psalms 84:10. Says, you know it, right?
I would rather be...
Better is one day in your courts than 1,000 elsewhere. I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of the Lord than dwell in the tents of the wicked.
That's the door greeters. That's it.
That's what I am, man. I honestly believe that. I pray that every Sunday before I come up. I am aware that that's all I want to be. I want to open the door for you, God.
Yeah.
So whether I open the physical one like you or on this stage, get to open the door, that's what we do. And I just love it. I love that you serve that way, man. So,
well, the other one is 1 Corinthians 10:31. Whether you eat or whether you drink or whatever you do to all the glory of God. So that's what I try to do all the time.
That's awesome. So in the story with Jesus and his disciples, one of the things that I learned recently, like this week, I just didn't know was a detail of some of the cultural reasons behind washing the feet, let alone washing them before dinner, was more practiced by the Romans from what I understand, but I don't know that it was not similar for every other custom and every other people that did this. So it was always before the meal. And one of the reasons that I learned that the Romans intentionally did it before the dinner was because with the cold, refreshing water, their hope was it would spark your appetite. It would grow your appetite so that when you'd eat your food, it was all that more satisfying. It's very sneaky. I love it. It's like we're going to make you more hungry so that when you eat, whether you like it or not, it's going to satisfy because your appetite's up. So it made me wonder this last week with Jesus, who was so intentional with all of his decisions, why did he do it after the meal instead of before the meal? And I don't know for sure, but it did make me wonder if it wasn't also to increase their appetite for him, for his way of life, for being kneeling, humbling foot washers. If it wasn't to increase our appetite by watching our God serve in such a way as to say to us, long for it, crave for it. Why? Because you will be blessed, because it will satisfy like nothing else and no other way of living. So here's what I want to do, is this morning I want to reach back to a 2,000-year-old habit, and we're going to pull it forward to the morning. And I want to serve Joe, who has so faithfully and so passionately served us every single week at the doors.
Love with no reservation. You're not looking for perfection. And there's no need in me pretending. I'll give you everything. I'll give you everything. You deserve my full attention. Nothing less than my devotion. Oh, speak to me and I will listen. I'll give you everything. I'll give you everything. Oh, oh, you can have my heart. You can have my heart. Oh,
Actually, can we do this? Can we put, I had some lyrics to that song I wanted to use earlier. I actually want to use it now. Can we put those up, the lyrics to that song? I know we just sang it, I know we just saw it. Can we just sit in it as we walk out one last time for a minute here? Because I don't know if that moment was weird for you. You're like, that was kind of weird. You just washed a dude's feet on stage. Isn't it weirder that the God who spins galaxies a day away from his own death, put himself on his knees and washed his disciples' feet? A move that wasn't just for them, it was for us. Not just to tell us to be the same, but he washed our feet. He continues to, as he gave his life for you and I, as he loves us, as he's affectionate to us, as he's tender to us. He serves us that way as well. I love how even he said to Peter, he's like, you don't understand what I'm about to do, but you will one day. I don't know that I even fully understand the magnitude of what that moment was, but I want to keep understanding it. Here's what we just sang. My mind is yours. My soul is yours. My emotions are yours. All my dreams are yours. All my plans are yours. My heart is yours forever. Here's my question. Are our hands his too? Are our hands his too? Will we be men and women who, like Jesus, humble ourselves and realize that, like he said, the full extent of his love was about our posture, clothing ourselves in humility like him, willing to get a little dirty and undignified in the process, because that's how he's loved us. Would we be those kind of people? So I'm glad you were with us this morning. I hope that somehow God met you, spoke to you, or even if you're not sure there is one, that you're hearing a whisper you're trying to make sense of right now. And I just want you to know, as you walk out of here this morning, if we can love on you and serve you, there's a team in the back that wants to pray with you, then let us do that. Or just enjoy the company of one another as you walk out these doors and get to the rest of your day. Just a reminder as well, as you do this morning, as you walk out, know this and remember this. This Wednesday is our midweek service here, and I'm thrilled to be able to have the chance to talk about, for me, what is one of my most favorite messages and topics, and what I think is one of the most crucial aspects to you and I learning to walk in the footsteps of Jesus. So whether it's Wednesday, next Sunday, or both, looking forward to seeing you. Have a great rest of the week. Bye.